Welcome to Redefining Normal. Join us as we question conventional thinking and talk about the courage it takes to create and live a deliciously vibrant life.
This podcast is for people who know there's a better way to do life and love, how we show up in connection to others, our kids, our partners, our business, and beyond that, our relationship with money, vitality, and more than anything, ourselves.
We're two shamelessly unapologetic moms choosing to experience the fullness of life.
And we're collapsing the conditioning that says you can't live a life of pleasure, peace, and abundance in the midst of the mundane of life responsibilities, work, and kids.
Thank you for listening in. Let's do this. Hello. Welcome. It is Carrie Lynn and Jamy Miranda. This week, we just stopped the recording from last week where we were talking to you about penises and blowjobs. And we said we're going to talk about ejaculation this week. So here we are to talk to you about ejaculation and semen retention and the power of what that is and why someone would want to do it and our experiences with it and experiences with men in our lives who have experienced this as well. So Jamy, take this away.
Yeah. So I don't even know where to begin. I suppose, so we were talking about this prior to hopping on this call, that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the idea of semen retention and a man not like ejaculating every time, it was almost like a success, right? Right. The goal.
We did a good job.
Happens, then we win.
We did a good job. We satisfied him.
Right? Yeah. So it was absurd to me. Like when I started hearing about this, I'm like, why would a man not want to come? So
actually, before you actually get into it, so this is literally the act of being able to have sexual experiences and having a man not come after it, where they normally would have, your end.
The grand finale, the end, right? Yes. Yeah. So we got exposed to this in some of the circles that, we were in. And Kyle started to look into and explore some of that in lots of different levels. And he actually does practice semen retention now and is intentional about when he does come. Oftentimes we'll do some, ritual, sex magic, full moony things. But there is beautiful pleasure in that too. The reason that this came up actually is because we were talking about blowjobs on the last episode. Kyle does not come in the morning. So I give him blowjobs every morning before he goes to work, but it's not to completion. It's not to the point of him coming. And that's actually what we practice on a regular basis, or he more than I, because that's a him thing. And I recognize that the energy, the desire, the life aliveness in him that I feel when he is retaining his energy, when he is not just expelling all the time. It's almost like his capacity is expanded because this, the energy of desire, of eros, of life force is staying within his body and circulating and moving in his life, versus feeling desire and then just expelling it. It's almost like popping the bubble over and over and over again and not being able to hold that capacity. He read a book called, I think it's called Venus's Poison Arrow or something like that. But it talks about the hormonal shifts that happen in a man and a woman actually when we orgasm. But the part that I remember is that the cocktail of hormones that happen after a man orgasms actually creates distance between him and his woman. He feels less connection to her, less desire, less focus on her, and goes a little more internal and a little separate. And so I started to think about that pattern in normal life, in normal relationships, whether it's marriage or long-term relationships, but whether or not you're having sex on a regular basis and coming all the time or jacking off all day long, that you're literally creating a hormonal concoction in your body of disconnection from your partner. that lasts like 7 to 10 days or something like that before the hormones come back down and start to, rebuild. So I think about the implication of that as well. And I will be honest, I told Carrie before we got on that I just told Kyle this the other day, that I actually hold a little bit of judgment towards men who come all the time. Like I've had men, say, I jacked off X number of times to what, and I'm just like, that's not impressive. Like, to me, it's like, it's a waste of your energy and your focus and your force and your capacity to like penetrate life is diminished in that, right? Like it feels like you've just, expelled your power in a lot of ways for me. And I want to reflect on that, because I also don't want to be judgmental of people's choices. And like, some people have more of that in them than others, and you can do life amazingly. But I do know that like a lot of professional athletes, a lot of like performance and like optimization people actually do this as well, retain semen, because of what it does in their bodies and their focus and their minds and their all of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, that's my personal experience. So Kyle and I have sex a lot. Like sometimes we'll have sex several times a day, for long periods of time. And he doesn't come, and he feels satisfied. I've asked him, I'm like, do you need to, like, are you feeling like you need some release? Are you feeling okay? And he's like, the pleasure along the way and the energetic orgasms and like waves of pleasure leave me feeling just as satisfied as when I do orgasm. But it's taken him a while to get to that point. There is a hurdle of going from coming all the time to enjoying different aspects of it.
I'm not the man, so I can't actually. Right. I'm like curious to say. I'd imagine that there is a mental thing of like, I'm not satisfied because I didn't, is probably actually a conditioning or a mental thing to overcome, as much as it is the physical thing to overcome.
And I mean, think about, there's probably some level of physical addiction to the dopamine hit, right? Like the rush of feel-good hormones, and chasing that part of it without recognizing what then happens over and over after. So it almost perpetuates that cycle of, now I got to chase the dopamine hit again because I'm feeling low. And so you just keep dropping yourself more and more into a deficit.
Which is just generally speaking in life. How many times do we do that, right? How many ways do we?
Exactly. And, like, I think about this from a woman's perspective, because for me, the more I orgasm, it's different orgasms too. So like G-spot orgasms and cervical orgasms, increase my life force, right? Like they expand me and turn me on more and more and more and more. A clitoral orgasm definitely is similar to ejaculation in that, like, it depletes me and I'm done. Like there's a drop energetically. So there's a difference in the orgasms and the ways that I personally orgasm and what they do in my energy body. Cause I recognize that it felt a little like, men shouldn't come, but we get to come all the time. But it's like each of us recognizing in deep honesty with ourselves, where does it serve us? Where is it depleting us? And what are we wanting to create with our erotic energy, with our ecstatic current, with our life force?
It's, to me, actually what I'm hearing from both sides of this, because like we started this last conversation last week talking about me having my journey around my own orgasm, right? Yeah. Part of my journey has been to not attach to having the quote unquote, like this big orgasm.
Finale, right.
Nolly orgasm, right? And it's the same thing as the man not attaching to not having this. And it's this conditioning that says like sex wasn't done right, well, good enough. And I'm like using these words in quotes. If we don't come to, if we don't come to the final, I mean, like, quote, like orgasm. Yeah. And I find
makes it very goal oriented, right? Like versus the pleasure of every second during.
Oh my God, like for me, it's like my turn on is so amazing that I could just keep going all day without having this like final. It's like I don't need to have that to enjoy the deliciousness of the connection of it feels really freaking good, right? Yeah. And then it allows me to explore the little nuances in my orgasms and my energetic orgasms and the little orgasms and all these different things that I'm like, wait, stop. Like, let me feel that even more. Like, let's turn that up even more. Like, don't hook into. And it is such a conditioning on the world's part that I'm not good enough, quote unquote. I didn't satisfy my partner, quote unquote.
I failed.
I failed if I did not bring you to orgasm. Right. And I
on
then
both sides, men have that pressure too. And women put that pressure a lot. Like, he can't even make me orgasm. You know, like, I see that so much snarkiness in the feminine, you know.
And let's be real, like, women, we are not, like, every one of us is different. And we are like, and it depends, like, and this is the other thing that I'm really honoring. Like, when you, I love that Jamy actually said this. She's 21 years married? Yeah. And she just told you guys she has like a fuck ton of sex. And I know she does. She's very wealthy.
Carrie knows.
let's just clear the air. First of all, on that you can have 2 children in your house living with you and have a fuck ton of sex and be in a long-term marriage where you get to enjoy pleasure. And I think that in and of itself is like a win that a lot of people.
And we have been through a shit show. We have not always had great sex. We have not always had a great relationship. This took work and intention and choice on both of our parts. And it's possible. Like, it's fucking possible. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think like that's number one. Like, let's break that down and just say you can do this wherever you are, like wherever you've been, you can bring this connection back. Yeah. And also on the other side of it, like, we're allowed to have this immense amounts of pleasure all day, however that looks for you. And if you don't come to some like finale of a thing, that means nothing about you. It means nothing about your partner. It means there's nothing that you have to like point a finger at. And like the other thing I'm even learning is like, I even had some like strange ass conditioning around how it had to be that I had the orgasm. And if it wasn't, like, this has been my conditioning. If it wasn't because his cock was inside of me and I don't have an orgasm that way, then I'm failing him.
Yeah. There's pressure, right? Like, oh my gosh, I want him to know he's doing a good job. So I want to, yeah. Like,
I want it to be this way for you, but it was like, it's not like, it's however you get there.
Yeah.
However you get there and whatever it happens, however it happens. And
the journey getting there, like maybe you don't get there and it's still freaking amazing. Right.
And I think the other thing around that is like, as well, just like you're saying, like, it's not about a getting there place. Yeah. Right. Yep. And that we get to release this pressure of that, because if you're having sex regularly enough, truly, like, there's days I don't want to. Yeah. I just want to enjoy. And it might just be like you just said, that blowjob for 5 or 10 minutes in the morning. Yeah. That's just this really beautiful connection point that is not about, I need to have an orgasm. It's not about that at all. It's just like, I want to connect with you in this beautiful way. Yeah. And now that's it. Like, I don't want more.
It does not have to be a big like ordeal production thing, right? I mean, like you were saying earlier, you know, it's like when you stay in the turn on and the eros, it's like you can have those moments all day long. Like, you can have these little like moments of getting it in and enjoying that sensation, that connection, that playfulness, and then go back to doing the dishes or whatever the fuck you're doing, you know? And I think too, this takes us out of this like goal oriented, because I think even like when women masturbate, it's like this, like, hurry up and get to the finish, like hurry up and complete, right? And you are missing all of the beauty and the pleasure and the process of turning your body on slowly and fully and deeply, and like how that ripples into everything. Because think about it, if that's how you're orgasming and bringing yourself to quote unquote pleasure, where else are you doing that in your life? Just hurry up through the fucking process and get it done. Like, what are you living for if everything is just a hurry up and finish? Like, where are you enjoying?
So many marriages, right?
Yes.
Finish, like, get it done. And like, you look at I mean, I know I've been there. I've done it in a marriage. Like, oh, you want sex? Great. Can you just hurry up and get inside and get it done so that we can move on with the day? Because I want to go to sleep, or putting on the I have a headache story, whatever the fucking thing is, right? Yep. Just get it done. Yep. Yeah. Like,
and it is a journey. You have to feel a lot. I mean, I still have like trauma come up. I still have, like, in all of the practice that we get on a daily basis, I still have moments where like Kyle will be like, are you still with me? And he'll stop. And because he can feel that something's come up, and it has nothing to do with him, and he's learned that it has nothing to do with him. So now he can be present and what's happening for me. So it's intense. It's a full journey. You do have to feel things to access. It's like the paradox, right? Like the extent to the pleasure you want is the extent of the pain or the, whatever that you have to feel as well. So
yeah. And I think there's also a piece in that around, like, even when you say that, like, I know for me in my experience right now, like, it's regular that there are tears that come and like sex gets stopped because I'm like, whoa, this is overwhelming. Or you touched a spot that's some traumatic thing, or like, then it brings out some like, holy cow, up in some response to that.
Yeah.
And like the beautiful thing about actually letting go of what this looks like to a completion or an end result means that I'm allowed to go feel that. And it's okay. And we can stop and have a moment to just be like, whoa, that was a lot. You took something inside of me that was like, that was buried years ago.
Yeah.
And you don't even need to know the story about it. Right.
No, let it move. Right.
Let it move however it wants to move. And we just get to be there and then not feel guilty because now I had to stop this experience and now you're not going to have an orgasm and I feel bad.
I've just ruined right. And that's like isolating a sexual like intercourse from the wholeness of an ever moving, expanding and contracting relationship. So I think that it's important. Communication, learning how to communicate is important for women to like, first of all, be able to take responsibility for what's happening. Because so often we project and we're like, you did something that made me feel this way. So we do cast a lot of blame without recognizing his actions brought something up in us. And let's be responsible for that. And for communicating what's happening with our partner. And for men to be able to step back from trying to fix and trying to take responsibility and trying to avoid blame. And recognizing you are just holding your partner through something that's moving and doesn't mean anything about you. Yes. This is an important thing. And I think women too, we need to learn to communicate our desires and our needs and our wants. I remember I used to see, and they're probably still out there, but I really cultivated like my social media in a way that I don't see this as often, but like the memes that would shame men because he doesn't even know where the clitoris is and, like whatever. And I'm like, but ladies, every pussy's different. So like, Are you communicating? Are you saying, hey, can you move this way just a little bit? Or, it's like we sit in silence and then judge that he's not getting it right versus being courageous enough and self-responsible enough to communicate what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what we want to experience, offer that like feedback. And men, when women are doing that, utilize it to meet the desire and create more pleasure versus the story that you're doing it wrong or whatever comes up in that as well.
I want to put a thing here that says, hey, Jamy, we need to have a conversation around helping women have self-pleasure practices, not in this conversation, because then that's how you will learn women what you want. Like we can't expect our men to know unless we know. And a lot of women don't have a self-pleasure practice to know, like, where does it feel good for me? Because like Jamy said, every woman is different, which is how this whole conversation started, because we were talking about last week.
Every penis is different as well.
Every penis is different, my orgasms. And I'm like, wow, this is so different. And this penis is so different. And I don't know what to do with all this stuff and all these feelings that I'm having. And I'm like, wow, this is hitting me in different places. And like, that's an experience that you get to go and figure out for yourself. It's not necessarily his job. It's your body. Like, you've got to be able to express it.
And literally, when you start to think about sex, it's like alchemy. Like every different, unique pussy, every different, unique penis, and then the equation that all of those different equations make, like it's alchemy. So communication is important.
Okay, so we're gonna put
yes, I will put a note. Yes.
We're gonna come back to this one.
See you when I get back to this one.
But we've really gone like sidetracked here.
Yes.
This is very Jamy and I like sidetrack.
ADHD brains.
What we're talking about is
on display.
We were actually talking about semen retention.
Yes.
So I'm gonna bring us back to semen retention so that we can like really get the core of this. Full circle. We're full circle right now. Full orgasm, circle, full all of it. In the fact that I think what's really important to start talking about that we like you started to talk about at the beginning is why would we do this? Why would a man do this? And why would a woman want to support a man to do this? And like Jamy mentioned her own judgments. And whilst that's her thing. I don't judge, and she's already said she's going to go work on her own shit. It's not my judgment to it. And I can say the same thing that like when a man has told me, because men in the dating world, like I've had one too many of them send me messages that say, oh my God, your picture made me want to jack off. And I had 3 orgasms to you within 15 minutes. And I'm like,
dude, I had a man tell me that his penis was sore from jacking off too much. Right? I'm like, dude, that's juvenile. You need to take care of your penis. Like, do not do it so much that it hurts. That's a problem.
So why, like, and I say this in like, I'm going to ask you, what is the importance for a man? Because I think I want to bring this back to this real clearly. And I think for me, I'll say this to you and I'll say mine first, that for me, like when I think about this, it's even like what we were talking about in the last episode in our own ability to cultivate our own life force energy, right? And then our sexual energy is actually our life force energy. When I heard this and I actually made this like connection, I was like, oh, it's the same thing. So if I can turn myself on and I can run this energy, it is my life force energy. It will actually drive me in my life. I will actually have more energy to do everything. I will be more magnetic. I will bring more of the amazingness I want in. I will think about something. And like, if I bring this into life, it's true. I think about something, and Jamy and I do this all the time. I think about something and it shows up. And I'm like, you wouldn't believe. I'm like, but of course we would. We just say, of course. Right? Because the more that you do this within yourself as a woman, the more magnetic we become, and the more that we quite easily bring to ourselves that which we desire, and our life manifests before our own eyes. And it's like, I didn't even know how I did this, except for the fact that I connected into my inner self, my own inner body, my own inner life force. I turn that on purposefully, and magical things happen. And I'm not saying this like you can sit and meditate and hope a bag of money will fall on your head. You can masturbate yourself into your dreams. You can't. You actually have to go and take actions on it. So let's get, because there's a lot of freaking mishap, and I think it's lame as fuck. When people think that they can masturbate themselves to their dreams, that does not.
No, that's not how it works. It's maybe a part of the equation, but it's not how it works.
Not how it works. Actually have to go out and take actions, people. We say
we live in a 3-dimensional world.
Right. It's easeful not because we sat here and masturbated. It's easeful because we turn ourselves on regardless of masturbation, and we go out and take action, and we make the things happen. Right.
In fact, oftentimes masturbation can become a distraction. Like,
Yes. So with that said, I will also say, and again, I'm not in a male body, so I can't actually speak to this from my.
And we may need to invite some male bodies on to speak to this, because I can only speak to the female response to this happening in a male body.
My thought though being, and like, I love hearing what Kyle had to say around this. My thought though being that the same thing happens for a man. Right. More that because if like with women, we have this beautiful gift of life that when we have orgasms, like Jamy was talking about this, like oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes it will turn us on more and more and more. Right. With a man, it depletes him. Like they let go of their cum and it will deplete them. Most women would know you've had the cum, they've come and they roll over and go to sleep. Right.
I mean, it feels like their energy deflates. It's like the balloon pops.
Right. And so it is quite literally the life force energy leaving their body. And so when I look at why a man would not want to come, it's a very personal thing. Like, build your life force energy and take that. And like, the beautiful thing about men is their penetration. I fucking love male penetration. And it's something Jamy and I have done a lot of work cultivating in our own female body of how do we learn to penetrate, because it's not something that we even are taught. Right. But the energy.
We've penetrated each other.
Penetrated. Jamy has given me
energetically.
I have had orgasms from Jamy of her penetration. It has been very delicious. This is a true story.
Yes, it is. What a night. Or day. I don't remember.
It was a day. And so the beautiful thing is that you can actually learn this, right? And so when a man holds that, then they are able to use this life force energy that they've held in to penetrate life more, because they're not releasing their
their potency, right?
Potency.
Like,
right. And then they can take it and drive it into work, drive it into their family, drive it into their own personal, whether it's their
whatever
health,
achievement
whatever it
they're
is.
trying to, yeah, like focus. They're sharper. They're there's clarity, there's drive, there's desire, like there's a hunger that pulls them forward, you know? And I mean, like, I don't remember if I said this in the last episode or at the beginning of this one, but like when Kyle does come, I can feel less magnetism to him. Like he feels less weighted, you know, it's like there's less draw to him. His energy is, his auric field feels deflated, and my body responds and like, yeah, you know, I mean, like I still love him. It's not like I'm disgusted by him or anything like that, but it's like it inspires less in me. My body is like, there's a, like, I don't know, just a ho hum sort of energy. It's like we become flat and deflated. Versus when he is really cultivating his own creation, life force energy within his body, my body reacts. My body is drawn to it. My body wants to experience, wants to be close to it, wants to play in it, and also wants to support it. Like I can feel my desire to nurture him more, to celebrate and like recognize and feel gratitude and like all of these things, not even in a mental way, but like my body wants to be in his field and wants to support it, wants to expand it, wants to be a part of it. And it's an interesting thing to recognize because my mind is like, what the fuck is going on? And my body is just a yes in a lot of ways and wants to give to him in a lot of ways. So, and it's not even give, it's almost like reciprocate. It's almost like it fills me up in a way that I just want to like spill out what it's inspired in me to make his life better, to make his life fuller, to like bring him pleasure. It's an interesting, like energetic dynamic that I feel.
So men, if you're listening, hear that.
Right? Yeah. Yum. I mean, like,
Yeah, right?
Isn't that what we're, you know, like trying to cultivate? And then we're chasing the release, which literally releases the thing that's drawing her in, you know? Yeah. And same, like you said, with women. I mean, like I said, different orgasms, a clitoral orgasm usually is my release. Like when I have a clitoral orgasm, I'm done. I'm ready for bed. It's very similar to releasing semen. But yeah, learning how to bring that energy back in and expand it, have the orgasmic, I mean, like the energy orgasms, the full body fucking rolling pleasure that just lasts for hours, the convulsions that, you know, it's like those things don't happen by just avoiding the expansion of the pressure and releasing over and over again, you know?
So ultimately what I'm hearing you say, Jamy, is that there's even more pleasure by not in sexual experiences by not releasing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is the thing, like a lot of people edge, you know, like to maintain that like tension and the feeling of pleasure, but it's still with the ultimate end of coming eventually, you know, it's like edging in life continually and staying in that high and being intentional. I mean, like, it's not like releasing is bad, like that's beautiful. And it has its place, I guess. And to be intentional with how and when you're doing that versus mindlessly chasing the end.
We should probably talk about, because Jamy actually said before we got on the call that she said, I think it was before we were on the call. We've said so many things already, that when you guys do tend to have release, that it is intentional, there is sex magic. And so I'm going to do another pin here that we're going to have a conversation about sex magic.
Yes.
I think sex magic is a really freaking epic thing that we can talk about that most people have no idea exists. And then take that into another conversation of like, when you are being intentional, what does that look like with intimacy?
Yeah. I'll put that on the notes too.
Put that on the notes too, because I think it's about time that we wrap this one. Is there anything else that you want to say around semen retention and why? And I mean, like, we can't, I'm not going to say, like, maybe we even need to have somebody, like a guy come on here and talk. I mean, maybe Kyle can talk about
I mean, like, we have been exposed to a lot of men who practice that with intention and with education around it. And I think that's what opened our eyes to it.
You have to learn this. It's not something that just like wake up one day and a guy will start, like you'll start doing this. It's like a choice. Yeah. And then it's learning and it's an unraveling, like we were saying early, right? Unraveling of the mental stuff that says that it has to happen this way. Mm-hmm. And that if I don't, I'm not good enough, or I'm a failure, or whatever the thing is that's coming up for you, whatever.
It's not perfect. Like, there are lots of, and you might lots of lessons and oopses along the way. Got a little too close to the edge there. Maybe we can put actually some links to follow some guys who actually talk about this. Because I know I've followed a few, and really when they're, when it's a man talking about what it does for a man, I think that's beautiful as well. And women, just be really curious. Is this something for you? Like, is it something to explore? Maybe you explore it and you decide, now this isn't what I want. And that's beautiful too. But just allowing yourself the space to ask the what if, like, what if there is something in this for me? And having a discussion with your partner, or having a play with what that might look like. It's just, like you said, it's not an overnight thing. It's a journey and a process. And if it's something you're curious about exploring, give it time and create space for the.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, like, as a woman, like, it's also like, you need to look inside yourself and see what associations you have to yourself around making sure that because I know for me, it's like, oh my God, it brings up stuff of like, if I don't, like, I didn't please you, all this stuff, right? So
much. That was huge for me. Like, how am I going to know if I'm doing a good job if you don't come? Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Like, it was part of like being a good lover, being a good, having a good pussy, being a good, all of that stuff. And it's like, I think I get messages from Kyle, like, almost daily about how magic my pussy is. Like, he's like, I know I say this a lot, but like, you don't understand. So ladies, the magic isn't necessarily tied to the coming at the end.
This is true.
That's actually that's a part of that other self-pleasure thing. Like you were talking about how a lot of women just lay there. Mm-hmm. We'll add that to that conversation.
We'll add to that conversation. Yes. Okay. All right. If you, again, I gave this, ending on the last episode. I know that this conversation is probably a little bit triggering for some people. There's probably some stuff that has come up for you as you've listened to us talk about this, whether you're a man or a woman, about whys, the whats, the hows, the what ifs, all of these different things. You are totally the fuck yous. Yep, all of it. You're totally in the right place. We love you. We see you. We honor you. Like, we're on the journey too. We're not sitting here speaking from like, oh my God, we are like the experts in this, because we most certainly are not.
We are not.
And especially being a man, like, no, that's definitely not true. Right. So if you have things you want to share with us, if you want to reach out, if you're curious about stuff, please do reach out to us. Our information is in the show notes. Otherwise, there will be a lightning conversation somewhere in the way as we move forward around self-pleasure, around all these other things that we were talking about today. Keep joining us on the podcast, on the show, for all of these, I'm going to say, quote unquote, a little bit taboo conversations that we're having right now. Yeah. Breaking through these norms and really starting to look at sexuality, sensuality, and having these big, real conversations of what's outside of boxes and how can we actually live in this pleasure field outside of the boxes that we've been conditioned to believe are true.
Amen. Until next week. If you enjoyed this show, let us know. We're all about authentic connection, so come chat with us on social media or email. Links are listed in the show notes.
And please make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and share the magic on your socials.